Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you again on this Catalyst Coalition Forum. And I still have with me on this edition our special guest who was with us on the show this last episode, Malaki Ogumadu, the immediate past National President of Committee for the Defense of Human Rights, CDHR. And it was such a robust, such an exciting, inspiring, and empowering session that we had with him. A lot was on power. We're taking down memory lane. And for me, it filled the gap because at the time, history was taken out of the school, out of primary and secondary. And so we have a generation of people that don't really know how Nigeria got to where we are now. I mean, our recent history. So there was a lot of filling in the gap and knowing how this whole struggle to bring about the present democratic experiment, how it happened, the heroes that fought, the price that was paid, and then what we need to see be doing. And of course, I think the more touching aspect for me is what we have now is not a democracy that a lot of people fought for and even laid down their life. And so we can't leave things the way they are. We need to put in more effort. And so today we're going to take the discussion, the conversation further, because we want to speak about the Constitution. What are the fundamental issues with the Constitution? Because it's getting louder and louder. People saying to us, the problem of Nigeria is both foundational problem, as far as the Constitution is concerned, it's also a structural problem. The way Nigeria is constituted, I had, a well-meaning Nigerian saying that it doesn't matter who you bring to run the current system, that it's not workable, it's not visible, and that a lot of our states are not viable, and then there are contradictions in the Constitution, and some even say the Constitution lies against itself. Well, I'm not an expert. And that's why we have to insist, and with our special guests who have graciously granted us this audience again, to come and help us shine a light on this issue of the 1999 Constitution as amended. And he's in the house again, and I'm just going to cue him in and let him go. Comrade Malaki Ogumadu, thank you again for coming on the show.
So I'm delighted to be back, sir.
Yes, thank you. It's always a pleasure to be with you, to learn from your wealth of experience, knowledge, and wisdom, and your courage, your commitment and everything. We can't thank you enough.
Thank you for
and so we want you to help us about the 1999 Constitution. What are the issues? And about the structure of Nigeria. You know all the debate going on out there in a way the layman can understand. Can you please just help us shine the light? What are the problems? What are the issues? What needs to be done? How do we go forward?
Well, I think I need to enter a caveat to begin. And that is to say that the salvation will not come simply because we dealt with the constitutional issues. In your intro, I heard you, rightly too, talk about structural problem, constitutional problem, even attitudinal problem. Mm-hmm. All of those will have to be sorted out before we have a new Nigeria that will be working. But let's contextualize it. Let's bring it back to the Constitution. The Constitution is the supreme law, not just of Nigeria, but of any civilized society. Technically, in law, we say it is a ground norm.
The ground norm.
From where every other law takes its roots. The 1999 Constitution is a valid constitution. But is it a legitimate constitution? That is where the question is.
Okay.
So you could have a valid constitution in the sense that this is the law as we know it. This is what we go and profess and advocate in court. This is what every other Nigerian quote. This is where you refer to, make reference to, with respect to any issue affecting the country. That is as to the validity of the Constitution. But is it legitimate? The answer is no. So what gives it legitimacy? It is the ownership of the people derived from their participation in its enactment. That is what gives it legitimacy. So a constitution could be valid, yet illegitimate.
Wow.
And you've had many legal pundits, starting from Rotimi Williams, concerned professionals before he died, Professor Nwabweze, and a host of other legally trained minds talk about the illegitimacy of the Constitution, and they're able to situate it within the context of the preamble to the Constitution, where the Constitution pronounced or proclaimed that we, the people of this country, having solemnly agreed, do hereby give ourselves the following Constitution. But ironically, on the same page, you have, in black and white, that this is Decree number 24 of 1999, presupposing that the military, in their haste to beat a retreat, merely put this together. And when I say the military, I'm talking about just the Provisional Ruling Council, or Armed Forces Ruling Council, as it was called then, gathered together and gave to the Nigerian people what we have now as our constitution.
Not a constituent assembly.
There was no constituent assembly.
There
was no no constituent assembly, no assemblage of the Nigerian people to debate and agree on the terms of this constitution. Unlike what you have in so many other countries, particularly South Africa, for instance, Botswana, Eritrea, and so on and so forth. I mean, if you go to the preambles of those constitutions, you will see how the constitution came about. The South Africa traces its checkered history up to the point in 1994 where they had to enact those constitutions. In short, the process of constitution making is by far more important than the content of the constitution.
Wow.
In the case of South Africa, the language and the proposals were reduced in their dominant languages, their local languages, for the input of the indigenous people of South Africa before consensus were built around it. So I have managed to speak about the validity and legitimacy, of the Constitution, to say that ours is a valid Constitution, but it's not legitimate. It is not legitimate because it was not people-led, it was not people-driven, and there was no participation which would have vested the toga of legitimacy. Now, having said that, you will therefore ask, what else is wrong with that Constitution? It was not for nothing that the country came to a point in 1954 and adopted and agreed that the best form of government for a heterogeneous society such as ours, with multi-ethnic, multi-religious groups of people, was to adopt a federal constitution. Now, the whole idea was to ensure that that way you're able to accommodate the various groups and their tendencies in this single entity called Nigeria, and allow them to develop and grow at their pace. That was the only way, seen to be convenient, politically convenient for a country like Nigeria. And like you did say in your intro, that was thwarted with the incursion of the military. And progressively, we had a distortion and a bastardization, if you like, perversion of our constitutional development, albeit federal constitution, up to this moment. What does it talk about? A federal system of government is one that recognized the juxtaposition of state powers, at different tiers of government, and recognizes the input and the peculiarity of the constituting members of that society in a way that allow them to grow, to develop at their pace, while contributing to the central government for national developments around issues of military, currency, foreign affairs, and so on and so forth. Is that what we have today? That is not what we have today. The fastest and easiest way to identify that is to go to the exclusive legislative list of that same constitution, and you will see overbearing responsibilities on the central government in relation to the constituent states, component states, or constituting states, which is supposed to be the other way around, in the sense that those states ought to have more responsibilities, ought to deal with wider range of issues, many of which are now found in the exclusive legislative race, over which the central government is permitted to deal with. That is at the heart of the problem. What it does is that it makes the central government too powerful, yet too weak in terms of deliverance, in terms of performance. Because what will you be doing with a federal central government on the issue of education, on the issue of road construction, provision of healthcare? They get overburdened, and in the process, muddle up the whole thing, leaving out those aspects of our national life that
including the police,
even
judiciary.
Today, you have the National Judicial Council superintending the affairs of the entire
Port
judicial
authority, immigration,
such that the man there at the helm of affairs, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, is necessarily interested and takes part in the appointment of a judge in Ebonyi State.
Wow.
A controversy arises from River State as to the eligibility of a judge. It becomes a National Judicial Council problem. Wow. The same thing with the police. Yes. So much so that under Section 415, you have a centralized police system, one that do not take into account the composition of this country. It has an Inspector General of Police to whom every police matter must go and decided. If there is crisis anywhere in the country, it will take the directive of the president, of the Inspector General of Police to talk about
appointed by the president?
Well, to the extent of his appointing powers, he can do very little away from those. So the Constitution is warped.
Yes.
The fact that we call it the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria does not make it a federal constitution, a federation. The robe, they say, does not make the monk. It is in the operation of the Constitution that you can ascertain whether it is a federal. Unfortunately, what we have is a federal constitution operated like a unitary constitution.
So it's a contradiction.
Deep one.
It's a contradiction.
Deep one.
This is so powerful. And the same thing you said about the police applies to the Independent National Electoral Commission, where it's also a unitary thing, and the chairman appointed by the president or approved by the National Assembly is the one, trying to coordinate this whole electoral thing in every part of the country.
Correct.
Unlike what we just saw in the United States, where the president have no control. Each state,
I'm not sure
each state have their own
I'm not sure any person can tell the name, even as robust as the election was. I'm not sure anyone can tell the name of the chairman of the Election Commission in the United States.
And it's decentralized.
Ghana is almost having their election now. I'm not sure people know as much the head of the electoral body there as we know of Humphrey Mosu and the current one.
Yeah.
Mahmoud. So the point is simple. It is that until we go back to that type of government, federal system of government,
Yes.
we will continually run into problem with the structure of this country.
Now, someone have said that actually this constitution is what is enhancing and, making corruption to keep running and all the insecurity. Like this is the tap from where all our miseries are flowing from because of the 68 items on the exclusive legislative list, which is part of what you say has so much overburdened the center and the presidency, and that it hinders development, it can allow infrastructure and can allow security. And so if we just keep crying about all this plethora of crises without addressing this, like we're dealing with symptoms without dealing with the root cause. So what do you say about that?
So
that this constitution,
yes,
and then you said something to the effect that it's not just about the constitution, it's the structure, and but also the attitude.
Yes.
But it's been said that if you have a working constitution and where institutions are working, it will checkmate people with negative attitude.
So to the extent of checkmating,
Yes.
that if you therefore get it right and then have the wrong people with the wrong attitude, with the wrong orientation, they will undo the constitution, no matter how beautiful it is. So we need a reinforcement of both factors.
Yes.
I think that save and until we will key and go back
Yes.
to building, first of all, creating a constitution of our own.
That is legitimate.
That is
has
legitimate,
legitimacy.
that is owned by the people,
only
that is
valid.
created by the people, which is what gives legitimacy to it.
Powerful.
And that's very important because, like I said, the process of constitution making is more important than the content of that constitution. Except we go back and start with that process and then structure it in a way that we will deal with all of these aspects of what ought to portray, what ought to give a federal structure.
That's true.
For that
A federal
long,
system.
Yes, for that long we will be grappling with this situation because what it does is that except to allow for constituent states
Yes.
to grow
Yes.
and deal with the resources at their, in their separate units.
Yes.
You are lumping every person together,
Yeah.
bringing the problems of these people to weigh down a unit that is ready to move, and then slowing down the progress being made by these people by the, retarding forces.
Yeah, so this is
from
what
other-
is meant by resource control,
That is
devolution of power, and restructuring.
on restructuring.
So you believe restructuring
I mean,
is-
including the constitutional...
is a must.
It's a must. How then do we deal with this? We're already closing in.
So how do we get it? Our time is up. We have to go on a short break now before we come for the concluding session. You have to tell us. It seems people in power, whether it's the people in National Assembly, the executive, and even at the state level, don't want this to happen. Some of them, before they get there, they talk about this as a way of getting there. But once they're there and they're comfortable, they forget about it and they start telling us that's
Correct.
not easy. So you have to tell us, how can we make sure this happens so we don't keep being locked down and just suffering all of this plethora of evil? We're going to be back shortly as we go on this short break. I think you will agree again that this is taking the axe to the root of the problem. We don't just want to keep dealing with symptoms. We can't keep doing the same thing and suffering the same woes without looking like we're insane. We have to know what is the right thing to do and stand for it and speak to the issues. So we'll let Barrister Uguma take us further in the concluding segment after this short break. So please join us, and I believe it's just going to get better. God bless you. right, you're welcome back to this Catalyst Coalition Forum, and we still have in the house Malaki Gumadu Esquire, the immediate past president of the Committee for the Campaign of Human Rights. It's just so for me, so engaging, so empowering, and it's enlightening. And we want you, comrade, tell us, how do we make this fundamental change that is needed? How to make it happen? I've never had it so clearly, the fact that it's possible to have a valid constitution and it's not legitimate. I mean, for me, that's powerful. And everybody seems to know about it. Before people get to corridor of power to a political office, they talk about it. But once they get there, they don't want any change. So what can we do and about restructuring so that we don't keep, putting the carts before the horse and expect progress? Someone says we're progressing the reverse. Okay. So what can we all be doing to ensure we get to that point where what needs to be done is done?
So the first is the clarity that we need to restructure our country. Okay. Because the level of ambivalence suffered in the polity is such that obfuscates the problem. It creates so much confusion. The clarity must be there that we cannot move an inch except we have a people's constitution, a restructured country, and then a willing and ready government to implement. So how do you go about that kind of? It is by the kind of sensitization that has started, but has not gained sufficient momentum, enough to break the jinx. Recall that in the past, we have had a call for sovereign national conference. Yes. That was in the 90s. To be frank and to be specific, was around 1990 when the likes of Alao Akobashon, Wolo Soyinka, Nahoro, and so on and so forth, all gathered and sold the idea to the Babangida administration. He bought it. But soon after he accepted it, he realized the implication of
a sovereign national conference.
that had the capacity of restructuring the country in a way that even the military will have to be confined to their constitutional rule. So he became the Maradona that he was. He needed to play that out to scuttle that. Absolutely. So that was what terminated. Otherwise, as far back as 1990, Nigeria was already clear that what we needed was to restructure this country. My goodness. And we have been beating around the bush since that time, 1990 to now. Those of you who are good in mathematics will tell us how many decades, how many years we have lost. So once this clarity is there, the mobilization and sensitization is upscaled, is intensified to gain enough traction, so much so that it will become indispensable. You will find that even this government that has found it convenient to renege on that promise. Recall that it was one of the promises of the APC-led government when they were campaigning, that once they ascended to power, they were going to restructure this country. Now, we were taken aback when the language started to change. So much so that we have the A.S.A committee to now tell us what they meant about restructuring, even if it was one of the campaign promises that we had. So we will break all of those barriers, continue with the campaign, continue with passing the right messages in such a manner that the people will own the struggle. the people will own this fight.
Yes.
And get it to the point where it will become indispensable.
So going to another election without doing this, what's the implication?
Well,
if we keep having election,
yes,
and the people that are elected are not ready to do
the
this.
poverty of the situation is that the state actors have become very frightened about it.
Absolutely.
And I don't know, it has become inexplicable for me. I don't know precisely why that is so. You are running a country and you are part of the history of a debilitating experience.
Absolutely.
And you don't want to be part of the solution. Now, I imagine that what they are scared of is to lose the temporary powers that, and
the benefits
of office. Yet, their sense of patriotism has not risen above those benefits in a way that they ought to put the country first before themselves.
So it's about a vested interest.
Because let's face it, if the country therefore collapses, those benefits you are enjoying will no longer be there, not to talk of being reduced.
Oh my goodness.
So seek ye first the kingdom of that political stability.
That's right.
And then these benefits that is driving your greed will be added. So, and the final point I need to make on this is to be clear about constitution making. It's not about legislation.
Okay.
It's not about amendment of the constitution.
Please, we have just a few minutes.
Yes.
What's the difference?
Oh, the difference is that the constitution is the product of the people.
Okay.
Not the product of the national members of the National Assembly. That it is, the constitution is the summation of the will of the people. And these people are the ordinary people, not people from that were thrown up through election. And therefore, what the constitution envisages is that it will be created by the people, and that's what vests sovereignty. It is that the people in whom the sovereignty lies under Section 14 are saying, we now want to donate this sovereignty and surrender it, albeit through this constitutional framework in a way that our will be represented. Now, if you undermine that and think that it's about amendment of the constitution, you miss the point. Now, because we have had since 1999 till this period, we've had 4 alterations to our constitution. Yet, it has become a pastime that killings are continuing.
That's correct.
We are going into recession after recession.
Almost become a failed state.
A failed state, where parts of this country are being occupied. Corruption has taken over. I mean, the realization.
So if we don't do this, what's the worst case scenario?
The chances are that the situation could get more complicated. We might lose grip. Because as I see it, the country is floundering.
Things are falling apart. Things collapse.
It's a rudderless ship already at the precipice, and any little thing can. The NSAS experience have shown that it's a very fragile.
So there is no other option. Whoa. Comrade, thank you so much for bringing in so much light and the courage to speak to the issues and bringing it to the level of everyone. Now the ball is in our court. I think we've had it again that there is no option. If we don't do this, our engine has problem. The flight cannot continue. The vehicle can keep moving. It's not about changing the driver. It's not about changing the pilot. Something have to give. Something need to be done. Otherwise, we're heading for bigger trouble. We don't want that. We can afford to have that. So we need to all begin to speak to these issues. Wherever you are, use everything you have, your social media, in your small group, wherever, your circle of influence. Let's ensure, because the power belongs to the people, not the people we put in power, so to say. And when our voices are joined together and there is unity of purpose, because we know we have a common problem, have a common challenge, and we're working towards the same goal. They cannot drown us, they can't stop us. Okay? And we know this is the only thing that's going to bring about justice. And then we can have the peace and the progress, the prosperity we desire. Without this, we're going nowhere. So please, let's embrace this and let's run with it. And we're going to again have to give our deep appreciation to Comrade Malachi Ogumadu.
Thank you.
For all your invaluable contribution.
My pleasure.
To build a nation that we'll all be proud of.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And we'll pray that God will strengthen and reward you.
We're proud of your platform too.
Thank you so much, comrade. So thanks for sparing your time with us. Thank you for your sustained interest and passion and commitment. And until we come your way with another package, please stay strong, stay on top, and let's keep speaking out. God bless you, and bye-bye for now.